This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Agronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again, time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 181. Tonight I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Howdy.
Thalen.
Hey.
And Tam on a different computer, so he's sorted down at the bottom of the list.
Hi. I was like, wait a second, I usually come before Thalen.
Yep,
No.
Because you're now sorted at the bottom of the list. Because you no longer have the admins. Last week we recorded the Destiny show, and as a result, things happened that week that we didn't talk about. One of which being BlizzCon, which is like the 347th running of BlizzCon or something like that. I don't know.
Give or take.
BlizzCon had a massive strike against it for me from the start, because like,
they said there was going to be the Diablo 3 news.
Exactly.
Yep.
Like a month ahead of time, they're like, hey guys, don't get your hopes up. There's no Diablo 3 news. Which is, generally speaking, like one of the Blizzard games that I care about the most and gets the least love.
Yeah, I was super disappointed in that. Like, I don't, at this point, expect a gigantic announcement, although I would like one. But I was really hoping that at least they would be able to say, hey, the Necromancer Pack did well, and now we're going to do more of that, or something. Just, like, radio silence feels really crappy.
Well, like, it always feels crappy come BlizzCon time, or because they don't really acknowledge that Diablo is really a game. Like, last year, it didn't make it anywhere into the opening ceremonies. The year before, it wasn't in the recap video at all. Like, that was even a game of theirs. So, I don't know, it just gets...
To go into something we mentioned earlier, Diablo isn't making them any money continuously.
I get that, but they have still been releasing content for it. They have still been selling new things for it recently, and I would hope that, like, I don't mind giving them money for that, so I kind of wish that they would just announce that they're going to do more of it. I know that some people don't love that, but, I mean, this game, because they chose it to make it be always online, they do have to maintain it and spend money to do that, and I want them to keep making some money off of it somehow, so, like, they should sell me stuff. I would buy it.
I mean, I would easily buy a equivalent to the Necromancer Pack once a quarter. Like, if they did that thing.
I feel like more goes into designing a class that they couldn't really put out one once a quarter.
I would be fine if they put out, like, once or twice a year if it had a new class in it. But even if it was quarterly and it just had, like, a bunch of cosmetic stuff and access to, you know, a new zone or something, that would be fine. I know that they've been giving us some of that stuff for free, but I want this game to live. And they're not really making me feel good about that right now.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Yep. I mean, it feels very much like Diablo has been put out to pasture, which I am not a big fan of.
I feel like they have some regrets about their design decisions in Diablo, and don't have any good way of walking them back.
Which design decisions are you thinking?
Like the always online thing, just the structure of it in general, it is much harder to release, like, update content for it, I imagine, because it's always online, because it's making those checks, because they have to support it.
And honestly, because of the way that the Necromancer Pack rolled out, I would assume that there's probably difficulty in actually segmenting what zones each player has access to. Because when the Necromancer Pack rolled out, you had to buy the class, but everybody got the new zone. And that tells me that probably there's not a great way in the system as it stands right now of saying, okay, these people over here have access to these new zones, and these people over here don't.
I mean, they sort of do. Like, you can't get to adventure mode if you don't have Reaper of Souls. You can't get
Right,
to
and you
West
can't
March
get
if you
to
don't
the-
have Reaper of Souls.
Right, but that's like an entire act, and I guess they could do that. Like they could do an entire act, and I'd be down with that. But they would
I
also
would
have to
love
create
that.
more. They'd also have to create more story at that point. And
I'm not sure how much more story they'd actually have to create because I'm not entirely sure anyone cares.
no, I don't really care. I mean, you could set up some new baddies for me to knock down, and I'd prefer if they did not raise the level cap because it's
Seasons
annoying
are bad
enough.
enough anyway.
It's annoying enough hitting the level cap each season. I would totally be down with more horizontal progression. But so yeah, like that was the first bummer. And there's a thing that happens on Twitter amongst the gaming community, and it's throwing out random predictions about BlizzCon. And like I threw out all these predictions about how I thought Sylvanas would end up taking on the modern Lich King trying to get more Valkyr. And not that I necessarily thought this would happen, but it makes logical sense. Like in Legion, she was cut off from accessing the Valkyr that Odin controls, or are aligned with Odin. So, I mean, theoretically, she needs more ways of generating Forsaken. So I thought, oh hey, she should totally take on the Lich King and then grab the crown. And then she can make as many Forsaken as she wants. And then, like, the last thing that I tweeted was that my nightmare would be that we get an expansion that's all about red versus blue.
Good job, Bell. It's all your fault.
And guess what we got? An expansion that's all about red versus blue.
It made me real sad. It was also on my list of nightmare announcements.
And
why?
And to be fair, like, there's a lot of stuff that seems interesting in this expansion, but like, I know it's a stupid dream, but I just want them to do away with the faction wall. You can have as much nonsensical red versus blue story as you want. I just don't want the barrier between me and like half of my friends that are playing WoW.
And the fact that they've added, or they are adding for the new expansion, all of these new social tools to be able to join multiple communities or clans or whatever they call them that aren't quite guilds, but that it's still faction locked. It's just such nonsense. Nobody wants that.
And the thing is like, I'm starting to question myself as to whether or not nobody wants that, because apparently somebody does. Somebody continues to want to do big dumb Horde versus Alliance.
I mean, like you said, I don't even care at this point. I don't like the Horde versus Alliance fight. I think it's really stupid in light of all the other big bad things that we've had to fight over the years, and we've always had to come together to fight them. And I think it's stupid to keep having the faction clash. But
well, we can't come together to fight the big thing if we don't like hate each other and almost murder each other first, right?
Right? Yeah. But like, I can even put up with that, even though it's dumb, if they would just say, okay, but not in canon, but just in game mechanics, you can set this switch and join your friends on the opposite faction and join their guild and whatever. Like, you can't go into their capital cities without getting murdered, but otherwise, like, just play.
And the thing
I could
is
live with
like,
that.
That's perfectly fine. That's the way EverQuest worked. Whether or not you were kill on sight to any specific section of the world was entirely dependent upon your race or your actions, and it was a personal thing. Like, you could, sure, it was awkward sometimes, like especially if we wanted to raid Kael Drakal and somebody decided to faction up with that area, and they couldn't group with us until we got to a boss because they couldn't afford the faction hits. But the thing is it was a personal decision that didn't really affect your options with other players. And this is just like, I guess what makes it even worse is the official story of this expansion basically goes a little something like this. Because we ran out of big bads to fight, we got bored and started fighting each other. Like that's essentially the backstory of this expansion. In the absence of bigger battles, we started fighting ourselves.
I mean, I feel like I can easily envision the executive design meeting that has probably happened on more than one occasion and results in that sort of continuing thing. Because it's like, because Blizzard still sells itself as, we're the PvP company. We know PvP. And for their flagship product to not to downplay that in any way.
But aren't they killing the PvP rule set for servers?
That's the thing, is in some other regard it has to be reinforced because they're the PvP company and that's what they do, and the people who made those decisions back in the 90s are still the ones calling the shots.
It seems so weird to me because I would never ever think of Blizzard as the PvP company. I don't think not even remotely an association that I would have with them as opposed to any other game company, much less than several other specific ones.
I largely think of the fact that they have a domain called battle.net as a mistake of the 90s, much like the fact that like my official job title is a webmaster. Like it is an artifact of a bygone era.
But I guess that's the thing, is so are the people making those decisions.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, I know people love Metzen, and he did a lot of good stuff, but I kind of hope that some of that would have died down when he stepped down, and I'm sad that it's still going strong.
I mean, but like, Morheim is still up there too, so...
Yeah.
Yep. And the thing is like, Blizzard has never been the PvP company. They just bill themselves as that, because they're like...
Both Guild Wars sort of come to mind first.
I mean, there's tons of companies that do PvP more and better than Blizzard does. It's just that for more than a decade, since before WoW, that was their... I mean, WoW was built on an MMO with great PvP, because we know PvP. We're Blizzard. We're the PvP company. And I don't think that's really ever changed.
So here's the thing, and this is kind of one of the things that frustrates me, and it goes back to the whole out-of-touch aspect. A lot of this expansion is all about bringing the RTS into an MMO, because there are these giant 20-player battlegrounds that are an RTS battle. But
boy, can I say how much I'm not looking forward to that also?
No, and the thing is, I mean, this is kind of harsh, but there's a large percentage of players that are playing WoW that weren't even alive when Warcraft was a relevant game.
I mean, I was around and I never played those games. And if they re-release them, remastered them, and release them now, I would probably take a look at them just out of curiosity because I know the story that's there. But I don't want that in WoW. I don't care about that in WoW. And like a PvE like activity with 20 people that's RTS based sounds like misery to me.
I didn't realize that was the thing.
Yes.
I feel like they're running out of ideas with... I mean, I've said this more than once, but
it's really funny you should say that, because Final Fantasy XIV's new PvP mode is basically a MOBA.
I was about to say, are they doing it as like an RTS or as a MOBA with creeps and lanes?
It seems to be like an RTS. That is how it has been billed.
So
I don't actually know much about it.
So from what I've seen of it, like just in the bit I got the virtual ticket so I could watch some of this stuff, and you're basically going to build an army, and then you lead that army into battle. You're basically the hero from Warcraft 3. The hero unit.
I kind of feel like Blizzard, for a variety of reasons, is not going to be in a big hurry to call anything they make a MOBA, despite having actually made one of those.
I mean, they made a damn good one.
That they also don't call a MOBA for reasons.
Is it possibly because people built MOBAs on the back of their RTS?
Might be.
Look, if you missed the boat, it's your fault.
They missed the boat because it was in their dock.
They missed the boat that they built.
Yeah.
Whoops.
But like, there's other stuff that was announced for the new expansion that does sound interesting. But I just like all of the air went out of the room when they announced the theme. You know, I mean, there's some other stuff that sounds really good. They've got some 3-player instances that are like the old scenarios from Mists of Pandaria. but with
That was a cool
apparently like better AI and more sort of randomness, so you're not just doing the same ones over and over. They have apparently sort of different various different activities that can happen within each individual. They're like islands. And so that sounds cool. And the new races that they announced are pretty cool. I like the concept of that. I hate that they're all faction locked. It seems dumb, and I know people are real mad about some of the choices. But
there's a lot of
What?
Horde players that do not like that they got crack elves.
There's a lot of Alliance players that
upset
don't like.
that they didn't.
Yeah. The Alliance players are real mad. I think that's fair because we spent a very large amount of time in the current expansion making friends with these guys, no matter which faction you were on, and now they're all gonna join the Horde. I mean, I play Horde, so like I'm excited about it, but
see, they could have done so many cool things with this by mixing it up a little, like give Dark Iron Dwarves to the Horde.
Give
Moose High Mountain
Tauren, to the Lions, and let the Crack Elves be dual faction like the Pandas are. I really don't understand why they didn't do that. Like they already have a system for that in place. Like why would they make them locked? It just seems so dumb.
I mean, I can tell you from a functional standpoint why this is probably the case, because these are just skin swaps for existing races. Like Night Elves become the Void Elves, and Blood Elves become, the Suramar Crack Elves, and, Moose Tauren, or Tauren become the Moose Tauren, and Dark Irons go from the regular Ironforged Dwarves. So they're just doing a 1-to-1 skin swap. It's not like it's a brand new race. And that's probably why they were able to implement 6 of them at once.
I mean, I think that's cool, and I don't care that they're just skins, but even whether they're just skins or not, it doesn't mean that they have to be faction locked. I don't know. It's just yet another decision that, I can't fathom.
It's disappointment on top of disappointment. I will say, the new areas of Kultiris and Zandalar look cool. Especially Zandalar.
I think they both look really cool, and I'm excited to play both of them. I'm just not excited about what story is going to be fed to me in them. But I think both of the new sets of zones look amazing.
It's weird. It's this is an expansion that has a bunch of cool features that I would love in any other expansion, wrapped up in an absolute shit sandwich of a plot line.
And the other piece of that, and I've heard lots of people on the internet speculating that they're going to do the same kind of thing they did in Mists, where you get partway through this faction conflict and then, oh no, old gods, and we have to band back together again. And
okay, but that was stupid. That was not a good expansion concept in Mists.
Right. And it doesn't do anything about the way that all my enthusiasm for the expansion went right out the door when they announced this concept. I'm going into this feeling kind of meh about it. Whereas if they had said up front, hey, this expansion is going to be all about fighting the old gods, I would not be as disappointed. I sort of expect that. It's not novel, but it beats red versus blue.
Aren't they kind of running out of enemies?
We killed all the dudes.
There's still at least one.
Yeah.
There's still at least one.
Hey, you guys haven't killed Alex Straza yet, right?
Or Jaina. Jaina's also still alive.
Yep.
Look, I mean, the point that Jaina or Sylvanas becomes a raid boss is the point where, I lose my shit and, buy a ticket to California to lodge my complaints.
I thought you were going to say the point at which I stopped playing, and I was going to say that doesn't sound accurate.
No. I mean, it might actually be the point that I stopped playing. There's a lot of things that annoy me about this game, and my, enthusiasm for it waxes and wanes, but, making either of those women a raid boss, I think, might just be the thing that breaks me.
I will say Jaina's mom looks badass.
Yeah, her new model is amazing, and Sylvanas' piece in the expansion launch, trailer was also freaking amazing. I almost stood up out of my chair.
I feel like that's what they're leading to, though, right?
I don't
Didn't
know.
they say something about that they weren't going to do that at least
I think
immediately?
I think they specifically said that about Jaina, that they did not immediately have plans or whatever to make her into a raid boss. They were trying to reassure people. I don't think they ever confirmed anything about that for Sylvanas, and I would be even more mad about that, even though she's the more obvious villain. I still love her.
I mean, at this point, they're going to have to make a new RTS just so they have another set of villains.
Or, just write some original fucking material.
Nah.
What?
I mean,
Concept.
Bell.
there
Advance
are so many...
the plot with new characters and
There
are
new
so
They
many-
ideas?
haven't done that since the 90s.
Look,
There's so many different directions. Like, they
They had a
keep
comic.
giving us...
They had a comic in which they advanced the plot.
and then they retconned that all out of existence.
And it was written by Walt Simonson, and it was actually pretty good.
It was a damn good comic. I have all the issues.
I'm just saying, I hit my breaking point with WoW the same way that Grace described a few years back, because they took the last few things that I cared about and destroyed them because they needed more plot material.
And
The problem is at this point they've left a decade and a half of all of these dangling plot threads that they could pick up.
well, this is
and
the other
do
thing I was
something
going to
with it.
say. Like, they have actually expended a lot of time and energy developing characters, and especially in the last few expansions, there's some really interesting characters and plots that they've set up. The alternate timeline Draenei, and some of the other stuff with the crack elves, and it's all stuff that just gets left behind when you leave that expansion behind. The pandas, none of that stuff carries forward. They make some
Yep.
interesting characters, and then they just ignore them going forward. And if they held on to some of those and continued to develop them, then they would have new heroes and villains instead of the same ones that we've had for the entire life of the game.
Well, okay, so prime example, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but Deathwing's son. Like, we just completely abandoned that shit.
Oh, the rogue
No.
dude?
Rathion?
Yeah, Rathion, yeah. He just, that just went into nowhere.
I guess so the point at which WoW started losing me with its story in Burning Crusade, but the point at which I lost it entirely was when I saw Theramore get attacked and Jaina go from I am the bastion
I'm the voice of reason.
I am the voice of reason to kill the Horde. And I was like...
Kata was not a great stab.
And I was like, well, that's the point at which, she was the character I was continuing to play this game for, and they forgot her for 2 full expansions, and when they finally decided to give her any screen time, destroyed everything about her that was relevant to her character in one swoop. And I was like, nope, I'm done.
Yeah, look, there's a reason why I'm more excited about the other announcement about WoW from BlizzCon than I was about the expansion announcement. Because, hey, the idea of a vanilla server is pretty appealing to me.
Wait, but I thought Blizzard said that they would never ever do that because it wasn't possible.
No, they said they had no plans.
I feel like... So, here's the thing. I am cautious about this for the same reason that I was for EverQuest 2. These are 2 games that have said numerous times that they don't have the code for the original incarnations of things. And I saw what they did in EverQuest 2, and it sucked. They tried to recreate the original 2 cities from memory, and they just don't work. They're not quite the same. They don't function anymore.
They can do better than memory because, well, quite frankly, the old files are all over the internet.
It's true. So
I hope that the people who are really excited about this get to play it so I can read about it. But all I can think of is, I think any way they decide to do it is going to be amusing to me personally, but I also remember vanilla.
I do too.
Yep.
And I know what I'm nostalgic for, and it isn't code on a server.
I am yeah. I'm also kind of curious what version of vanilla.
Yeah, I mean, I get the sense
Clearly
that none
launch,
of this has
so
been.
MC is the only raid.
MC wasn't in it launch.
Right, was it Nixie in launch?
No.
No. Blackheart Spire was raid content at launch.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, they could do like the EverQuest Classic servers and like
Advanced
start
patch
from the
every,
beginning.
like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're going to have to basically deploy the modern client and then tier in item sets and levels and content
Talent
progression.
points.
Yeah, I mean they're going to have to do some stuff like where they just tier in the content. They're not actually trying to recreate the game back then. I mean, and the question is, like, are they going to open on Courage? Like, is this going to have an opening of the gates again?
I mean, I think that would be such a huge potential draw that I would be surprised if they did not do that, but I don't know.
See, the difference there is with the I don't know, with the level of professionality that comes from big WoW raid guilds, they're going to open the gates in a day.
No, they're not. That's the thing is,
Exactly.
you can't. Like, remember what it took to open those gates.
I know, but there are people that are paid to play WoW right now.
Yeah. Remember it took an entire server collecting millions of materials.
And I
Yes.
suspect that
But you
if
know
they-
what those are. So if the gates start closed, people will stock them.
it's true.
Yup.
But I also suspect that if Blizzard thinks that it's going to go too fast, they could scale it. I wouldn't actually mind that. What I want out of this system is things to feel slow. Like, I miss that about leveling. Like, I don't care about raiding. I didn't play in vanilla. I don't think I have enough friends who would play on a vanilla server that I could raid. I don't care about that. I just want to level and feel the time that it took to level up, the amount of running around and energy that it took to level up, the pace of the content, and just seeing all those zones in that old world again. Like, that's what I want. And if I get something cool like getting to see the opening of the gates, which I wasn't around for the first time around, like, even better.
Maybe it'll even happen without the servers crashing this time.
That's unlikely. That's not the vanilla WoW experience.
I mean,
That's the
clearly
thing. It's not really vanilla WoW if the servers don't crash, regularly for the first couple of months,
and
you don't
boats
get
take
stuck
you to
trying
Stone Talon Mountain.
and you don't get
Right.
stuck trying to loot bodies. And if the server doesn't get deluged by armies of jerks from BlackRock every time their server goes down.
Yup.
The thing was around for long enough that I got to experience it. It wasn't really gone when Burning Crusade started.
Yeah, some of those things were definitely still around when I started playing.
I'm ready to see good old Captain Placeholder.
Captain Placeholder.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't help but think that the more faithfully they recreate it, the more the vast majority of people will hop in and be like, oh, this sucks, and stop.
Yeah.
Because, like, it took me, like, a week to get to level 10. Sound
It took
about
me a
right?
year to hit 60 on my
Sounds-
first character.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
months. I mean, you're talking about weeks on a single level kind of deal. And,
I'm super excited about that.
I mean, it's
Like, I'm really legit excited about that.
I don't know. I look forward to I genuinely look forward to hearing what your comments are about it, when you do it, because
I
don't
don't
know,
have
it
the
was-
time for it, is my thought.
well, it's whether or not I have the time for it, I don't want to spend that time ever again. Like I have been burned out to the point of, like, the two things that I've ever done in an online game that have nearly caused me to stop playing them entirely was having my Jedi murdered in Swig and the Gates of Anchorage, in which I burned myself out so hard I nearly took down the raid group with me. And like, I hope nobody else has to experience that.
I'm curious if they'll actually ship with any PvP content either.
I mean, I think it's going to be the really big question going forward. I know that they've added classic forums on their official forums, and I think they are soliciting some feedback about what exactly people want out of this. And I'm really curious what they're going to decide on, because, I mean, for me personally, if it ships with any of the current modern social features, like looking for group, I'm out. Like, I don't want any part of that. If it ships and your talent system isn't the old talent system, or if the mechanics don't work as they originally did, then I'm probably out. Like, I might be a tourist for a week just to see some of those old zones, but that's not what I want out of this. I want the slow, miserable experience of leveling myself up to 60.
I'm 100% like in all honesty curious. Like I don't understand why. Like is it because you hadn't seen it?
I mean, I started in Burning Crusade, so really I did see most of that stuff. It was all still there, and in Wrath, when they put in the Lore Master achievement, I went back through all those old zones and did every single quest. So I've seen, what was there to be seen. I just miss it. I miss that world I spent an awful lot of time in, and I miss the pace of it. Like, I don't know. I mean, this is a place where I know I'm different from you because I love leveling in MMOs. I have a million alts and I love leveling them, and so the thought of having this content to level through in this game that I love and is familiar, but also I haven't seen in years since Cataclysm, is just really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it gives you what you're looking for.
Me too.
Honestly, I kind of would be interested in the idea of an MMO without the social features, because that is sort of what I have nostalgia around, is trying to like communicate in server chat to put together groups for dungeons. Like, I've often talked about how I feel a lot of pugging anymore in MMO makes people a disposable commodity, and I feel like that leads to some level of the toxicity that we see in these communities. And I feel like having to like actually say, hey, I'm trying to go to Upper Blackrock Spire, we really need a healer, would you be interested in doing this with us? Is like, that's a level of social interaction that we currently don't demand, and I think it puts people are more likely to use the chat features as a result.
Well, and treat other people like people.
Yeah, exactly.
I was so engaged with the game during early Wrath, especially prior to the Duty Finder system, not Duty Finder, but Group Finder. And as soon as it was released, like, people stopped actively responding to requests to hand build groups. They just were happy to sit in a queue for however long it takes and not really mess with the social interaction of pulling together a group.
We let robots handle our social interaction for us.
Yep.
And it was fun for a time when it started, man. Like, I still, like, I was that person who happily subjected myself to the most horrible pugs that I could throw myself at. But I don't really enjoy that as much anymore as I used to. And I'm looking forward to having a world where, I can actually have a friends list of people that I've grouped with before, and I can run stuff with them instead of just random strangers who are miserable.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly had my share of miserable pugs even before the group finder in vanilla.
Sure.
But
sure.
I
And
also
I knew who they
made
were, and I could
friends.
avoid them.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
And sometimes you just took them because they're the only person around who you knew, and you're like, oh god, this person again.
I mean,
but I gotta
honestly,
go to Upper Spire, so I'm gonna take this person.
part of the reason why I collect people even today is because it was an instinct that I gained starting in EverQuest and continuing on through every other MMO of trying to pull known good people with me, so that I would always have a group of people that I could play with.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's space for an MMO. I mean, if anybody were making MMOs anymore, but I do think that there's space for an MMO that focuses on that community building and focuses on that sense of making the space feel yours, or like it's one that you belong in, not one that you log into to run your dailies.
I mean, to some extent,
I just don't know if that's vanilla. I just don't know if that's a revisiting of vanilla WoW. I mean, maybe it has to be because it's the only thing that anybody will ever make. But
I mean, to some extent, this is what Brad McQuaid is going for yet again. But he's had 2 other times to build this game. I sincerely doubt he'll get it right on time 3.
I just remember when I was leveling up, getting a random group of people together to do Black Fathoms Deep Depth, and we got really far, but some of us were underleveled. We ultimately failed, but we're like, this was fun. Like, we were having fun hanging out with each other, and it's like, hey, let's do this again tomorrow. And we all, like, put each other on our friends list. And it's like, all right, we're going back in after we've leveled up a bit. And we managed to get all the way to the end and, like, get progressing through a dungeon after failing with the same group was a really just incredible feeling that has stuck with me for almost 15 years? How old is WoW now?
13 going on 14.
Not that long.
Yeah, but over a decade. I still remember that feeling. I still remember our subsequent runs of Scarlet Monastery.
I remember, like, I had a large group that I brought into WoW, so somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50 players, but it was like a group that came from EverQuest and came from Dark Age Camelot and came from City of Heroes and Horizons, and I slowly gathered people as I went. And I remember that getting a guild tabard was what felt like an impossible barrier, because I don't remember how much it was, but it was enough money that none of us had close to it. So I remember for like several nights in a row, we would go do Dead Mines runs, and anything that wasn't equipable got hoarded onto one player and got sold at the end of the run to eventually fund our tabard. And I don't know, there was something magical about that, of, you know, the financial barriers being impassable if we didn't all group together and try it to make it work. And to some extent, that's what the house was in Final Fantasy XIV.
And the thing is that if you didn't have that group, it sucked.
But I mean, if you didn't have that group, then you didn't care about having a tabard.
But
when I started, I don't know. I mean, when I started, I had one friend who brought me into the game, and she wandered away shortly after I started playing. So that's when I switched to Horde. I didn't know anybody. And I just ran around leveling like a noob for a long time, and then I started trying to do dungeons, and I met people, and I still wasn't in a guild. I just made random friends.
I don't know. The tabard was never the thing, because I never had one until much later. But I couldn't get a mount. I couldn't get my spells.
Yeah, I totally remember not being able to afford my spells. It was funny.
I don't know. It wasn't. I don't remember it being a good feeling. I always felt like I was behind because everybody else I saw was just doing so much better, and they were in guilds, and their guilds had a system, and I didn't, and I was not good at meeting people, so I didn't for a very long time.
I think I was just oblivious for a very long time. Like, I didn't inspect other people other than going, oh my god, that person has their mount, it's cool.
Well, it was a while until you could actually inspect people.
Yeah, but we started in Burning Crusade, so that was the thing.
I remember when they first released Armory, and everyone was like, this feels in like a massive invasion of privacy.
Yeah, that was after Burning Crusade, so I was also still playing then.
Yeah, I remember checking people out when, like, people were offering to fill spots just to see, like, were they not wearing agility gear as a mage? That felt, like, super broken, you know, because it took away a lot of the random chance of some of the encounters that just did not work well at all.
I feel I am very incapable of, like, objectively assessing Vanilla WoW, because not only is it Vanilla WoW for me, it's also my first MMO. And so everything feels even more rose-tinted glasses.
Yeah, I definitely also have that problem. But, like, maybe it'll be terrible, but I don't know. I think I will enjoy it if it is mostly like it was originally. I will
hope for
enjoy
your
it
sake
probably
isn't
enough to
terrible.
level it.
I might like get a character up to 10.
I feel like part of it too is like it needs to just be an alternate rule set that's available and not like a separate subscription. That's a big thing for me. I don't want to pay for a second subscription just to play.
No, I can't afford to pay for 2 subs, and frankly, I would drop my actual WoW sub for a vanilla sub, at least for the first couple months, just to try it out and then decide, but I wouldn't sub to both if I had to. At best, I might pay an extra $5 on top of the regular sub to also be able to do Classic.
Not that they've said anything about that, but like it's a fear that sticks in my mind anytime somebody adds a totally different feature set to something. And I guess the other question is, like, is it only going to be vanilla, or is this going to be a progression server? And if they do vanilla lock servers, are they going to have, you know, BC lock servers that you can transfer your characters to? So you can basically progress your way up through the servers.
I suspect that'll depend largely on how the vanilla one works out for them.
How successful it is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the progression servers that EQ does are really fun, but they're also, like, the entire community of that server votes, so you have to have a character of a certain level on the server, I believe, before they'll let your vote count. But every, I think, 3 months, a vote comes up to see if it progresses to the next block of content.
And apparently there's usually a lot of drama around these votes.
Yes. Because there are people that definitely want one thing or the other. Usually they don't progress. Like, it takes a while before they progress, usually.
I imagine enough people have to have cleared the content.
I mean, I feel like I would be happier with a bunch of one-way servers where, you know, if you want to transfer your character from the vanilla to the BC server, you can, but there's no going back.
Yeah, that way you can progress it at your pace.
Yeah.
But then who cares about the Kata server?
Well, yeah, that was the other comment I was going to make, is that I doubt that there's going to be much in it for them past Wrath.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine that there would be much interest in any of the other expansions in terms of nostalgia factors. I mean, I know that there's tons of people who started in some of those expansions, but boy, like, Kata server is the last thing that I would ever want to play on.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like Kata was this giant misstep.
I'm pretty sure you're right.
I mean, Kata was the point where I definitively stopped playing. I came back as a tourist once or twice.
I mean, we sort of talked about that before. It's when they broke all of the vanilla content, which, regardless of how many people were in it or playing it, that was probably not the best of ideas.
And I guess it just seemed like a really odd idea, because they had the phasing technology at the time to have phased versions for the high-level players so that they could maintain the consistency of the low-level experience.
Well, and it's interesting to note that's apparently exactly what they're going to do this time around.
Yes.
Because Undercity is being retaken by the Alliance, and Teldrassil is getting burned to the ground.
Yeah, I'm not excited about either of those things happening, by the way.
I mean, Teldrassil can burn for all I care. All it's got is elves.
I mean, yeah, nobody's going to miss it.
I mean, hopefully the Worgen can get out, because hopefully they can swim. But past that, I don't care.
I'm sure they can doggy battle.
You can burn the elves. It's the worst Alliance city.
Man!
That's not true. Because the Exodar exists.
Yeah.
I feel like Exodar is easier to get around than Darnassus. At least you can fly in Darnassus.
Yeah.
At least you can fly in Darnassus.
Yes, there are still like fragments of the world where gravity is different or something. So you're just not allowed to fly.
Well, that's the thing I don't understand is like this expansion is going to be in Azeroth proper, or at least parts of it.
No flying
and
mounts.
No flying again.
Yeah, right. No flying mounts. That's a blast
your
from
mouse
the past.
forgot how to fly.
No, I mean like going back to classic.
Yeah.
I mean,
into your flying mounts.
there's the thing.
You want to know the
that-
right answer? The right answer is still to play a druid, so you get teleport Moonglade. Or be a
Yeah.
mage.
Be a
Although,
mage.
make sure you buy your portal runes.
But, like, I'm actually, that's the thing that I'm excited about. As much as I love flying in the current game, and I get really mad when they do weird gating things with it and then take it away in subzones and do stupid shit, I am fine with going back to vanilla and not having it because that was the state of the game at the time. I leveled through Burning Crusade. You couldn't fly in the old world. Like, it's just the way that it was. And it was designed that way. So I was okay with it.
I'm okay with not having flying mounts when flying mounts don't exist in the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, once they open that can of worms, then, you know, that's a different story. But before that, in vanilla, that's fine.
I mean, it's going to be 6 months before anybody can afford an epic speed mount.
Yep.
It's gonna be 6 months before it's not gonna be 6 months before anybody's level 60, but it's gonna be.
That's not true.
Oh man, bullets.
What was the speed run record in vanilla? It was like a week.
Sure.
That's the thing I'm wondering about is like, does this mean hunters are getting bullets again?
I sure hope
Pet
so.
food?
I hope so.
I remember both of those things. One of them was way more annoying than the other.
Yep.
Oh,
I had
pet
Wind
food was
Serpent.
pretty
Wind
important.
Serpents ate bread.
Yeah,
Bread was
pet food
easy.
was
Mages
pretty
can make
important.
bread.
Does this mean that weapons aren't going to be normalized again?
I don't know. You'll have to skill up weapons, in theory.
Yeah, weapon skills.
So if you're a rogue, there's a weapon called the Barman Shanker.
It's amazing.
No dagger.
It's a 2.0 speed dagger.
Yep, the best dagger you could get as a rogue was a broken bottle,
Yup.
and it sucked.
From Blackrock Depths.
Yep.
You had to
No,
convince
you don't
somebody...
have a transmog, so good luck.
Yeah, you don't get a transmog. That's when I switched to swords. Straight up, I was like, no, this is a stupid weapon. I'm not going to use it. I'm not a dagger rogue anymore.
Also
I'm
got
done.
The best dagger from Blackrock, Upper Blackrock.
That
Yeah.
was almost a year later.
Okay.
It also wasn't a good dagger as
Well,
a dagger weapon.
It wasn't good for a dagger.
Correct.
It was good because interactions were broken.
It was
Yes.
good as an offhand for sword rogues. Because dagger rogues had tons of crit. They didn't need the extra crit.
Well, separate things. Also, your crits can't miss. Bunch of mechanical interactions made that weapon weird.
And if you're going to be a priest, you want to be a dwarf priest.
Yep. Only priest.
Nope. Forsaken priest.
What did Forsaken priest get? I don't remember.
Will of the Forsaken.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what their priest thing was. Nothing was as good as the dwarf one, but Will of the Forsaken is pretty amazing.
I'm pretty sure the racial spell for undead was pretty crap.
Yeah, I think it was.
It was some sort of like vampiric, like weak vampiric thing,
I
I
mean,
think.
at least it wasn't Star Shards.
Star Shards was awful.
But, like,
Even after they fixed Star Shards, it would still be crap.
To where it didn't pull everything in his own?
Oh, are you still thinking of... Did Star Shards do that?
I'm pretty sure. it
Oh,
did,
yeah.
Or are you
too.
thinking of the later Starfall?
No.
which is
Starfall.
also that?
Yeah, Star Shards
Starshoot-
was just hit
Star-
one thing.
Yeah.
It just was weak.
Okay. I could have sworn Star Shards also had an AoE component, but maybe
No.
I'm wrong.
Star Shards was the
Starfall.
priest racial spell for night elf priests. It was garbage. It did damage over time, animated as stars falling on the head of a single enemy. It did basically no damage.
It looked kind of cool, but it was crap. Yes, undead was
The PvP race.
I mean,
Yep.
Yes.
that too.
like, most of the Horde was PvP race.
Forsaken had Devouring Plague.
Oh man, Thalen, Dwarven Hunter gun bonus.
Mm-hmm. Plus 1% to hit. That mattered.
It
Oh.
mattered a lot.
No. It was +5 weapon skill.
Oh yeah, this was back weapon skill, plus 5 weapon skill, which
Much better.
yeah, which was even better.
weapon skill was a dumb stat.
I got every single weapon up to 400, yes, including unarmed. I got
Yep.
that achievement when they
Me
rolled out
too.
achievements.
I went and punched a Yeti a million times for that.
You know, the thing is like, I know I will get drawn into these shenanigans, and I'm probably going to recreate Loden, because that's the only way to play vanilla for me.
I mean, I'm just sad that
As a hunter.
all of the friends of mine that I know are gonna play are all gonna be a lion, and I am not. There's no way. All my nostalgia is on the Horde, and I definitely don't have the energy to level on both sides in vanilla.
Man,
I'll be real sad if.
I mean, heck, you couldn't in vanilla.
Well, see,
No,
that's honestly, that's the reason why I'm so bitter about the faction wall, is, like I said, we started with about 50 people, and we were trying really hard to level in two different places. We had a Horde guild on Silverhand, and an Alliance guild on Argent Dawn, and after level 20 to 30-ish, it got to the point where we needed to spend so much time on our characters to keep them progressing that for the most part everyone picked a side, and about 30 people picked Alliance and about 20 picked Horde. And at that point, like, the group was cleaved in, well, not in half, but was forever broken. And it has annoyed me to this day that I had to choose to either play with one group of friends or another group of friends. But it's going to be interesting to see how Classic shakes out.
I hope that it inspires my fond hope for it is that it reminds a whole lot of people. It manages to remind a whole lot of people what made MMOs great back in that era, and spawns development of some new games somehow that revisit those things. Because I would love to play an MMO where I have to go, you know, where it is community focused and those things that we were talking about. But I don't want to play vanilla WoW again, ever. And I'll be real sad if that's the only place I can find that.
Okay, since we've almost recorded an entire show about this one topic, it's probably time we should move on to something else.
Look, we have opinions.
We do have opinions. And the thing is, like, we have deep opinions about this one. Kodra, you've been playing some Wolfenstein 2.
I have. I feel like I'm about halfway through the game.
You played a lot more than I have, then. I've just barely scratched the surface.
This game's gonna be controversial for a while. Like, the game starts off with a pretty uncomfortable scene that...
Yeah.
Yeah, this game is, like, it definitely feels like it's trying to make you uncomfortable as you're playing it, especially, like, as a white male American.
Yeah.
But it kind of feels like an indictment of, like, white male America from a developer that is a white male non-American.
I can see that.
Like, but it opens up with, like, you dealing with your abusive father. Your abusive racist father.
Yeah, basically, you know, first they go through this is what happened last time on Wolfenstein, and goes through the important points of the last game, which end with you, you know, almost dying. And in the beginning of this game, you spend 6 months, and I guess not in a coma, but 6 months, you know, yeah, basically in a coma. And you have some interesting dreams during this time. Memories of your past.
Which, like, I don't know if any game have ever tried to delve into the the question of who is William J. Blazkowicz?
The son of a piece of shit.
Yeah, well,
BJ's dad is awful.
Yeah, the son of a Jewish mother and a really abusive piece of shit father. And, like, physically, emotionally, all that whole gamut. And it ultimately leads with, like, him trying to toughen you up by forcing you to shoot the family dog in the basement.
Yeah.
Which, like, I feel like I kind of is spoilers, but is this type of spoiler I would tell basically anyone who's thinking about getting this game.
I tried really hard to point that gun at him.
I did too.
You do not actually see the dog die.
But
Well,
you actually have to kill the dog?
You do not have to kill the dog.
You
The
do
dog
not
does
have-
die, but
the
you don't
dog-
have to be the one to do it.
Mm.
Yeah, like if you can shoot off to the side and the kickback of the gun knocks you onto your back and your father degrades you for being weak like your mother and then takes the gun out of your hands and you hear a shotgun blast.
Yeah.
But like, okay, so we're really digging into sort of, and so the other sub-theme is Anya is pregnant, and so BJ is an expected father, and what does, like, he is not dealing with that well.
He's an expectant father, and he's also not capable of what he once was.
What a shocker that BJ Blazkowicz, natural empath, might have issues with this.
Like, and again, it's like, hey, this is sort of, it's interesting because it's like, here's a character study of a person who has largely been a blank slate in the past. But like, what does that mean?
Yeah, and then you spend the entire first level rolling around in a wheelchair because you can't walk on your own anymore.
That feels weird to me. Like, that felt a little like you're rolling around in a wheelchair, like shooting people up.
Yeah, I mean, you are still DJ. That said, I feel like this game starts out a lot more difficult than the previous one did.
I would agree. I've died a whole bunch.
I've died a lot, and I'm having a lot more trouble sneaking up on commanders than I was in the first game.
Yeah, my ability to use stealth is a lot worse in this one. I'm playing on like the third difficulty.
Yeah, just medium, basically. Yeah. Like I'm almost tempted to dial it down one.
Kind of same here. This game goes into a lot of weird, dark stuff. Does some stuff that really turns me off at the beginning, but like it's also about and it's also about the fact that hey, if the Nazis had won, like there's a big section of America who would have been really happy with that. Like theoretically, Nazis come in and empower white supremacists, and there's a whole bunch of those here.
I mean, I don't know that theoretically is the word to use anymore, but yeah.
I don't know. This game also goes into some weird places, and I feel like I would be spoiling things if I brought up some of the stuff that happens later on in the game, because there were some things that I was like legitimately surprised by.
So, question I have is, because the first game had branching paths, does it take that into account, or are you given a de facto world
one of your
state?
dream one of the things that you remember while in your coma is that moment, and you have to choose.
Okay, so you make the choice again. It's not like it imports.
No, yeah,
No.
You make the choice again.
Yeah, you
I feel
choose
like
if
I would
you're
make
in
the same choice.
You choose if you're in the
Wyatt
Fergus
timeline
or
or the Fergus
Wyatt,
timeline.
yeah. Which seems like it would have a whole bunch of impact, because that character plays pretty heavily. How far are you, Thalen?
I'm like, I guess maybe it counts as the second level. I've released the U-boat and am headed back.
Okay.
To get off of the big Nazi helicarrier.
So yes, they kill a character in that level,
yes,
and
they
that
do.
made me so angry.
Yes, it did.
I'm like, and not like angry at the evil characters who did that, angry at the developers for doing that.
Yes. Like, the evil character who did it is such a, like, completely off-the-rails cartoon psychopath at this point that it's difficult to be angry at her for that.
Yeah.
It's Frau Engel is who it is. Like, from the first person you talk to after you've woken up in the game, like, you find out that apparently Frau Engel's been hunting you ever since the last game ended, and she finally found you. Like, she has thrown off all semblance of like being capable of like functioning in the real world. Like I really hope I get to kill her in this time around.
I'll be curious about your thoughts as you continue through. The game does somewhat pay off some of this stuff, and I do understand like structurally why they had to kill that character.
Right.
But I disagree with their decision-making process. Like, I vehemently disagree.
I've not actually started yet, in part because, like, I knew whenever I started, I would want to keep playing until I beat it.
It's a good one. I would say maybe turn the difficulty down a bit. It definitely feels pretty rough. It's actually gotten a little bit easier since I've gotten some of my upgrades. Notably, the thing that turns the rifle into a single shotgun and also gives it armor piercing.
Yeah, could be useful.
But there are some levels that are like just awful. Like the level I just finished beating took me, I want to say, 20 to 30 tries. And the worst part of that one is it doesn't have a checkpoint.
Ugh.
Nope. Yeah.
That's just misery.
It was pretty bad. And the early part is very difficult. That's it. The in-game version of Wolfenstein 3D is top-notch this time around.
Oh, did it get upgraded?
Yeah, like, you can play all 7 games.
Okay, that's awesome.
Wow.
And it's got the original, like, soundtrack, which I can tell because I recognize the sound files from Keen. Like, the Commander Keen, Goodbye Galaxy, ending tune, that little jingle is also apparently the pick up loot jingle in Wolfenstein.
Ah.
It was very funny for me to recognize that one.
Apogee recycled a lot of sounds.
I was having a lot of fun playing through the old one. Also, it's a lot easier to play that game with a mouse and a keyboard.
How did you play it the first time?
Without the mouse.
Without the mouse?
Oh, I guess it's true. Mouse look wasn't a thing yet.
Mouse look was not a thing yet.
Like, I think Doom was the first game I ever played with mouse look.
I'm pretty sure, like, that game was designed to be played with a joystick. I want you to think about that.
I played a lot of it with Gravis gamepad.
Played all of my early shooters with a joystick. Played Dark Forces 2 with a joystick.
Like, I understand that was a thing, but I don't even know how that would work.
Well, there was no up-down aiming.
It's true. Also, because the controls were not good, everything was very forgiving.
Yeah.
Which, again, makes mouse and keyboard feel like cheating.
So, like, I think there was only one direction you could fire. Like, so, not one direction, but, like, there weren't multiple lanes of fire. It's just, if you were firing forward and the mob was in front of you, you were hitting it.
Yeah, but it did not have to be, like, under the gun. Like, bullets would veer towards my targets, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. You were practicing gun fu. So, other news of the week, we have progressed a little bit farther in the Destiny 2 raid since recording the show last week, and we have killed us some dorgs.
Yes.
No, I actually got to see the raid.
Yeah.
I am super happy that we were able to repeat things. Like, we had a repeat performance of, the baths encounter, and then made significant progress on the dog encounter. I would have liked it if we could have seen, I think the gauntlet was up next.
Yeah, but I'm glad we got loot. I'm glad we went loot hunting and figured out how that worked.
Right, that was worth more than anything, was understanding, we can try this over and over and over until we get it, instead of wandering around and resetting, going to orbit.
What's loot hunting?
This raid is BRD. There's the raid, and you can progress through the raid as you might in a normal way. And there is a elaborate...
Or you can go kill the arena or the jail or...
Yeah, and the raid is structured in this, like, winged dungeon form. You go into the middle, you do some stuff to unlock the next area, you go to that area, you beat the encounter, you return, etc., until you get to the final boss, as you do. And then there's an elaborate, like, probably twice the size, the overall size, labyrinth underneath the raid.
I feel like this is an answer to some of the complaints players had about King's Fall, which was the Taken King raid. And part of what made that take so long is if you wanted to have maximum benefit from the raid, you went after all these chests that were way the hell off the beaten path and involved some pretty extreme jumping puzzles to get to. And it slowed down the raid as a whole because you had to have everyone at the chest before you looted it, or somebody potentially missed out on loot. So a lot of my experiences in King's Fall was either me failing at jumping or waiting while someone else failed at jumping to get a chest, all so we could progress to the next boss that chest was on the way to. And I feel like separating the chest keys from the raid encounters is probably a good idea, because that means you could split it up on another night and go after the chests. Also, I clarified, the chests do not disappear, or the keys do not leave your inventory at reset. You can have multiples of the same key in your inventory, and they will be fine now. They originally did kill at reset, but now it's not quite the crush to get them quickly before the end of the night.
Good.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so if you think of it in terms of, oh, I could do the encounters on one night, and then we all go back and then do the nonsense to get our chests, that makes it feel a lot more reasonable than, oh, now we need to stop early so to make sure that we get all the chests in time.
It is real weird, although I do really enjoy their raid design.
I have heard from multiple people that the dogs is the roughest encounter.
I mean, I didn't feel like the dogs was any more difficult than the bats encounter. It just required better coordination. And maybe that's what makes it difficult, but
yeah,
we were pretty good at coordination.
A lot of the times that we got screwed over was when a dog didn't behave like it probably should have behaved.
Also,
there were a couple times where the dog did something weird while pathing.
the fact that there's no timer or indicator of any sort of when the burn phase ends and when you need to run back in the room was also somewhat of an issue.
Yeah.
But we got through it.
It's true.
I am super looking forward to the next fight, because I've seen enough of it to at least get like a picture of what's going on. Not exactly understanding the mechanics, but just the fun. Like, I've caught bits and pieces of it from streams, and it's like, I don't know, it looks like a crazy game show. Past that, faction rally has been happening in Destiny 2. It's the second faction rally. It is more than likely going to get won by Dead Orbit again, because people apparently like gray shaders.
Yes.
Space Goths.
I mean, it's not red, but we'll take what we can get.
So Bungie admits that they tried really hard to rig this one by giving Dead Orbit a not amazing weapon and
That's
giving
what you said
New
last
Monarchy.
time, and it didn't work at all.
No, it didn't work at all. But New Monarchy has a sword. Like, it's the only sword in the loot table for the factions. But I have a feeling we're going to get a shitty grenade launcher.
I feel
that's
like
the thing that's going to happen.
And there must be a lot of Destiny 1 nostalgia about Dead Orbit, because I feel like and I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, because quite frankly, they're not really selling me with their factions there.
So the Dead Orbit nostalgia from Destiny 1 is they had a bunch of emblems that had skulls and axes and stuff on them, and they had black shaders. And in Taken King era, they had like some of the best weapons. Like, there's a Hung Jury is a scout rifle that is a thing of legend, or at least the Taken King roll from Dead Orbit. So like, there's a lot of nostalgia about Dead Orbit.
Because I think without that, New Monarchy would be the winner, just because of the structure of the placement of things.
Yeah, I mean, the way that the quest sets you up Like, if you want to pledge New Monarchy, you're right there. If you want to pledge either of the other ones, you have to run all the way to the other side of the blaze.
Yeah, I feel like that's a super engineered thing that surprises me that New Monarchy is not just the winner.
The funny thing is like in Destiny 1, New Monarchy was probably the least popular.
They had red stuff, and they didn't look like the future war cults. We can't decide what color to make this, so let's pick 3.
I like Future War Cult. Future War Cult's my like Future War Cult grew on me over time, especially because you have to deal with them a lot for the No Time to Explain pulse rifle quest, which was a upgradable version of basically the Stranger's rifle.
That's awful. Is it actually called No Time to Explain?
Yes, it is literally called No Time to Explain.
Look,
I mean, she's the one that said it.
I know.
Yes.
At that point, they knew it was, yeah.
Look, naming of weapons in this game is nonsense.
No, it's amazing. I don't know what you're talking about.
Whether or not you find it amazing is a separate thing from it being nonsense.
It is kind of nonsense.
It is nonsense. You may like it or not, but it is nonsense.
Look, the weapons have to have names, and names are made of words. That's all that's required.
Look, the thing is the naming scheme makes me remember individual weapons because they're memorable.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I have
Sometimes they're memorable.
I have the exact opposite experience because there is no like conceptual hook for me to latch onto a given weapon name or any like context that it provides. I remember exactly one weapon name, and it's Sunshot because it is at least descriptive.
I mean, I know at least another weapon name you know. I can say Better Devils, and you know what the weapon is.
Okay, that's fair because I have been forced to use. I have used that one a whole lot.
Skyburner's Oath.
I've forgotten that one on multiple occasions. The only other one I remember is Hard Light because what it does matches its name.
Graviton Lance.
Which is that one?
The
Black Hole
Bullets gun.
Oh, okay.
The pulse rifle that might as well be a scout rifle.
Right. Yeah, I mean, no.
See, despite playing this game much less than you, I have had no problem holding on to some of these names.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like, for the most part, you can probably rattle off a gun name and I can tell you what it is and whether or not it's good. Or why it's not good if it's not good.
I don't remember proper nouns. I remember functionality.
So what's a good auto rifle?
Hardlight? I mean, wait.
Uriel's Gift for an energy slot. Origin Story for a primary or a kinetic. Valkadon and Perseverance are basically the same kit with some slight differences, and that is an archetype that's pretty decent in Destiny 2 on PC that is horrible on console. Ghost Primus will be amazing whenever we can unlock that from the raid. Hardlight is an interesting gimmick gun.
I like Sweet Business, but it will run you out of ammo real quick.
Yeah, no. Sweet Business is no, it's fun, but it has a very low maximum ammo capacity, and especially if you have something like the Actium War Rig that auto-loads anytime you stop firing, it's just going to run you out of ammo faster than you can do anything. The Number is also an amazing auto rifle, but it is essentially Uriel's Gift without high-caliber rounds and ricochet rounds in its place, making it a really good PvE weapon, but not as good of a PvP weapon.
The one I'm currently using is Half Dandy.
Is that a blue?
No, it's a purple.
Oh, okay, that's one of the Haka rifles. That one's actually kind of rare.
I've had 2 of them. Interesting.
Yeah, I've not gotten one yet on PC. I have gotten one of them on console. There are some gunsmith weapons that are rarer than others. Like for auto rifles, there is, God, what is it called? It's the name of the hopping zombies. I am drawing a blank on this one. Jiangxi. It's like the Chinese hopping zombies, and it's super rare, but it's really good. Frontier Justice Scout Rifle is another one that's unbelievably rare to get off of Gunsmith.
Really?
Yep.
Pretty sure I have one. Kind of think I have 2.
I have turned in hundreds of Gunsmith packages on console, and I never saw one. I've only ever seen one. Oh, God, I can't pronounce this one. It's either Antiope or Antiope.
I've got that one.
Yeah, like that one's fairly rare too. I've heard tale of people who've turned in like 300 packages with a gunsmith and never seen it.
I bet if you want either of those, I've gotten them.
Yeah. Tam tends to get everything that I want a week ahead of when I get it.
It's a little weird.
I still don't have a Yangshi on PC, which is a really good auto rifle.
You're gonna make me look this up to figure out which things I actually have. Oh, yep, I have that one.
Well, do you have that one or do you have Uriel's gift? Because they look very similar.
I also have that one. I have both of those.
I'm sad. You got your Better Devils well ahead of mine, and
I mean, I got Better Devils as a gift from Hawthorne as soon as I hit 20.
Yeah, that happened to my spouse, and I was real mad because I still don't have one.
That is such a good gun.
Oh, is it? Maybe I should use that.
Better Devils?
Yeah.
It's like the best. It's like the best hand cannon.
So they're basically people in two camps. There are some that will argue with you and say Better Devils is the best hand cannon. Other people will say Old Fashioned is the best hand cannon.
That's what I'm using.
They tend to, like, there's a certain player base that loves one or the other.
Is just from the name, is that like the old-timey rusted revolver?
Yes.
Okay, I used that one for a while and did not for it.
There's a Dead Orbit version called Dire Promise that you can get right now during the faction rally that's a better version of Old Fashioned. It actually feels really good. But again, that's coming from someone who really likes Better Devils, so maybe Dire Promise makes it not feel good to the people that like Old Fashioned?
I don't know. I don't like guns that take like 6 years to reload, which is what I remember from that one.
I mean, that tends to be a thing with hand cannons in general, in my experience.
Sunshot reloads pretty fast.
Yeah, Sunshot reloads pretty fast. Better Devils, if you set it to reload faster, reloads pretty fast.
Or if you're a hunter, you can dodge reload it.
I don't think the Old Fashioned feels awful. I've gotten used to it now, and it packs such a punch. It feels worth it.
Yeah, so by the time you get Better Devils, you may not like Better Devils.
It does annoy me. I do feel like some weapons are not quite tuned right. Like some weapon classes.
Every single grenade launcher.
I think grenade launchers...
There are 2 good grenade launchers.
Yeah, there are a couple that I've been able to make work.
Behringer's something or other. I forget what other name goes with that. That one's good. And then Play of the Game is hands down the best grenade launcher.
Play of the Game was alright, I think. Is this the one I have? Yes, that's the one I have. Yes, it's okay.
Prospector is also decent, pending you don't just like hold down the trigger and let it queue up grenades that don't explode.
I mean, I feel like grenade launchers, other than a small subset, aren't very great. I feel like scout rifles could do about 10% more damage across the board, at which point they'd be fine. Sidearms are just something to make me angry. They're like of the whale gear.
Most sidearms are kind of garbage.
That's kind of how I feel about them too.
I mean, my main problem with the sidearms that I've tried is they have way too much recoil.
They're like SMGs that aren't good.
Yeah.
Right. Like, SMGs have an amazing niche. Like, they are really good for what they're good for.
Yeah.
Like, if you absolutely need to burn something down that got too close, man, SMG is going to be your friend.
I feel like SMG is what I kind of want to be taking into most Crucible matches.
That's what I absolutely do. My normal combo for Crucible is Antiope D as my SMG in the kinetic slot, and Uriel's Gift as an auto rifle in the energy slot.
Yeah, I feel like actual legit sniper rifles are super underwhelming.
I don't know what they can do to that to balance it to make it better.
I feel like all of the weapon types that got moved to power weapons for this game are underwhelming now.
Yes, agreed.
So basically, fusion rifles, shotguns, and sniper rifles.
See, I don't believe that on fusion rifles. Like, I will use a fusion rifle over any other power weapon.
Fusion rifles are better than those other two.
Yeah.
There are some fusion rifles that I like, but they're few. It's not like sidearms where I don't like any of them.
There is also Merciless, which is maybe skewing fusion rifles a bit.
Well, I mean, there are several other really high impact fusion rifles that do a good job.
Fusion
It's the
rifles are nice when
medium-
I want something when I want something that I can use against close range foes.
Yeah.
Not murder myself. Because
The
long range rocket launchers. I've yet to find a situation where I would use a sniper rifle that a rocket launcher isn't a better choice.
Yeah,
You
and
get
a more versatile one.
you get more ammo for a sniper rifle.
Not enough more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the situations where it really matters, I'm probably killing dudes that are dropping power ammo, pretty regularly.
I feel like auto rifles. I don't like auto rifles, but I return to them often because they just are more powerful. Like they fill a bunch of niches that I feel like other guns should be filling better than those guns.
I mean, it's sort of why I ended up with hand cannons, which are not my first choice of weapon, but like they do some.
And cannons do the job of scout rifles better than scout rifles do at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to be precision, hand cannons are the way to go.
Yeah.
If you're not good at precision, then SMGs or auto rifles seem to be the way to go.
Yeah, and I've run into a number of auto rifles that both outclass scout rifles and outclass hand cannons. Most hand cannons.
I
And
mean,
they
I feel
definitely
like
outclass stuff like SMGs.
Origin Story is one of those, in part because if you can kill something really weak first and get that rampage stat going, you can just shred bigger things. Rampage is a really good perk on any weapon
Rampage
I've
is a
seen
pretty
it on.
great perk. The kill reload one is also pretty great. I don't remember what that's called.
Kill clip?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that makes the anti-PD really good is it has kill clip.
I want things I hit or kill to explode.
See, I feel like this is one of those things, like, have you played with the Manananan?
I haven't.
You really need to play with the Manananan. It's got explosive rounds
I mean,
as a scout rifle. It's really good.
I'll have to give it a shot.
but like that's one of the things Better Devils definitely has going for it.
Yeah, and Sunshot.
Sunshot does it even better.
Yeah.
I like explosive rounds better than Dragonfly because explosive rounds just do extra damage on every hit. It's AoE damage. Dragonfly only procs if you hit with like a precision kill as the final hit. The thing I miss the most from Destiny 1 though is tracking on rocket launchers. Because I think there were a lot of rocket launchers in Destiny 1 that had tracking.
I feel
I'm using
like
one of those.
rocket launchers don't need to be better.
I have a rocket launcher with tracking.
Which one has tracking?
You are asking the wrong person.
Like I've literally not seen a rocket launcher with tracking yet.
There's one that I've been using that when I bring up the site and I've got an enemy in the reticle, it goes beep beep and then makes a tone, and once it makes the tone, it will seek enemies.
I think maybe Morrigan D.
Sure, but that. All right, I'm gonna open the thing up again. Yes, Morgan D.
Yeah, I've been using Curtain Call because it drops cluster bombs after it hits. It is hilarious. It's what big
Holy
explosion
hell.
and then scattered little explosions.
I need a Morgan D.
Yeah, Morgan D tracks. I was using that for a while. Or you get the Wardcliff coil.
It's real funny in Crucible.
Wardcliff rockets track.
I mean, that's really the place that I wanted tracking was Crucible because movement is super erratic, and there are abilities that people have that make it even more erratic.
I'll be honest. I feel like if you're in Crucible, your power weapon should be a sword.
I don't want to be one of those guys.
Winners?
No, assholes that wait around a corner for somebody to run by.
I think Thalen is right on this one.
Winners?
I mean, it is a form of winning, but like if I have to win like that, I don't want to win.
I think the other funny
no.
thing is using the sword ability that nobody remembers exists.
To block fire.
Yeah. Nobody in PvP is expecting that. Sure, you're gonna die, but your team's gonna kill all of them because they're too busy trying to shoot you.
One of the things that frustrates me a little bit is the fact that sticky grenades just aren't good anymore.
That makes me so sad.
I don't feel like any grenade that isn't one of the ones that sticks around continually dealing damage is good.
Right. Basically, pulse grenades are the only ones that are good. They're the only ones worth throwing. mean, because sticky grenades will not one-shot anyone in Crucible.
That really defeats the purpose of them entirely.
Right. They
aren't good in PvE.
They were basically my, oh, you're going to kill me, so I'm going to throw a grenade now, and we're both going to die. And it's going to be funny.
I mean, I did that a whole lot in Halo 2. Somebody's running at me with a sword. Well, I don't think there's anything I can do about it, but I can toss a grenade and hit them on the way in.
I feel like my most favorite build ever is going to get nerfed into oblivion at some point, because double pulse grenades is really freaking powerful. And the problem with that is there's really no other Titan build that can even come close to the same damage output.
Yeah, it's crazy good.
Like, I have to really fight and hold back to not kill a dog in the first round.
Yeah, I cannot do that as a warlock.
And the fact that I am out of band with that ability like that tells me it is absolutely going to get nerfed. And it will make me so sad when it does. But it's probably, for the best.
Maybe they'll buff some of the underperformers.
That is possible. I have seen Bungie buff everyone else rather than nerf before, but it's been rare.
I guess it sort of depends on how out of band it is.
I mean, Bell can kill a dog, and almost everybody else in the raid can get theirs to like a third at best, like optimally.
And that one time we went on 2 stacks, I still got it down to a sliver of health.
Yeah, whereas nobody else was even breaking the first third.
And because I've slotted in grenade regen, by the time we did the next round, I still had 2 grenades up. That I polished off the dog quickly and then ran over to somebody else's and threw the grenades there. I'll be interested to see what happens on December 5th when the season changes, we get the new DLC, and I would assume that is the point where we're going to see some major balance changes.
Makes sense.
And that's not too terribly far away. I fully expect auto rifles to get touched with the bat. I fully expect hand cannons to lose some of their range. I'm hoping that means scouts are going to get buffed.
Yeah, it's a little weird that you can basically snipe with a hand cannon better than a scout rifle.
That's the way they were in year 1. And then they overcompensated in year 2 and 3. Well, actually, year 2, hand cannons were pretty rough shape. And then by the time year 3 rolled around, they had regained some of their power.
I feel like maybe these are the same people who brought us the Halo 1 pistol. Maybe they don't have to do that every single time. I don't know. Hand cannons, damage fall off. Yep. Probably should be a little better.
Yep.
Yeah, probably. This is as a hand cannon user.
I mean, in close to medium range, right now, they perform exactly like they should. They're just way the hell too powerful at long range. The same goes for auto rifles. Like, auto rifles should not be as good at long range.
I feel like hand cannons are not like, maybe this is just me, but it feels like it's really hard to get hits with the hand cannon in PvP. Everyone's a little bit faster than they used to be in Halo.
So, and I think a big problem in PvP right now is high caliber rounds is so good that if you are not using it, you are at an immediate disadvantage. The amount of flinch that you get off high caliber rounds is just out of band with any other ability that you can have on a weapon. And that's the reason why Uriel's Gift, for example, is the PvP auto rifle of choice. Because you could flinch a sniper and keep them from hitting you. Now, as good as Better Devils is, I don't think it has high caliber rounds. Yeah, no, just checked. Does not have high caliber rounds. So that means when you're going up against someone else, you're not flinching them, but they're flinching you.
Is there a difference between high caliber and high impact?
Yes. High caliber basically causes screen shake, for lack of a better term. Like, you flinch off of your target. It is harder to hold on target. High impact goes against shielded targets. So high impact is like, it's not as good as hitting it with an energy weapon, but it's going to help put a dent in a shielded target. And it also does a little bit extra damage against players with supers. But of those two, you definitely want high caliber rounds instead.
I have nothing that has high caliber rounds in it.
Like, that's part of why people are saying that the submachine gun from Future War Cult right now with Faction Rally is so good, is it's super fast and it has high caliber rounds, which means you can just flinch the hell out of somebody with it. I think it's a 900 RPM submachine gun. Another decent auto rifle, if you're just looking for something with high caliber rounds, is Skatelock, which comes from the EDZ among other places.
I have that one, but mine did not say high caliber rounds.
Yeah, it's high caliber rounds or tactical mag.
I'm not looking at the right place. I was like, it has a adaptive frame, which is what I was looking at.
So you may have weapons with high caliber rounds.
Yes.
Anyway, this is super deep in the weeds.
A little bit.
Let's move on to our very last topic. Ash?
So, since we last recorded a normal show, I got a chance to play a game with Thalen and Kodra, which is a CCG simulator. It is a board game / card. It's weird.
That was a hella weird game.
It's called Millennium Blades, and it is a board game simulating the life of being a CCG player. So you build decks, you play tournaments, you sell your cards to the aftermarket, you buy packs.
It's deck weird. Builder. It's a deck builder about building decks for deck builders.
It is very, very meta. I mean, that's the theme, so it's a little hard not be. Which means that a whole bunch of cards are references to other things. There are some predictable ones, like there's a card that's like, there's a set of cards that's like Star Wars references, there's a set of cards that are Firefly references, some like Mega Man, other random video games. Then there are some hyper-specific ones. There's a card called Dr. Balance, after Dr. Boom, the Hearthstone card. Because if a card is disbalanced, you just have to play it. There is a Chase, a price sculptor. There is like Bernazard EX Omega J something. They hit a whole bunch of things. Actually playing it was an experience.
Yeah.
The basic structure is you have 20 minutes to build a deck of sorts. You get some money, you can buy from the store, you can sell to the store, you can try to trade with players. During this 20 minutes, you have to attempt to get a set of cards you think will go well together, because you will need them for the upcoming actually play the game phase. And then also come up with a set of related cards you can turn in as a collection to the store for points. And midway through this, you will find out like what the meta is. So you will find out what can maybe earn you some extra points in the tournament. And there's a lot of stuff. It is an overwhelming amount to keep track of in 20 minutes.
Fascinatingly, and I don't know what this says about me, I actually found it perfectly reasonable to keep up with, provided you are willing to just ignore things that weren't immediately useful to you.
That's probably reasonable. I found it a little overwhelming.
But I guess it's also sort of my job to take in tons and tons of input and sort it into something reasonable, so maybe I have some practice.
I found trying to make a deck that did any sort of synergizing was quite difficult.
I mean, you start with a deck that almost synergizes, so you can work with that.
It synergizes pretty well, yes. But then, where do you go from there?
I mean, what I did was
I don't have an answer to that, and I'd like to play it again so I can find one.
What I did was I removed the cards that I realized were dead weight and added new ones, and then the only swapping I did was to match the meta. It was like, what is this thing doing? Okay, that thing is doing something fairly reasonable. We're going to make sure it continues doing that thing, and add other ways to win and ways to prevent my thing from breaking. And then after that, it was just like, hey, the meta is this time. What card am I going to play to win the meta? Got it. But it's definitely a game about sorting signal from noise, because there's a lot of noise.
It's also, the timed aspect is interesting.
The rules also give a alternate setup where you play a turn-based version, which also has the weird effect of combining the tournament and deck building phases into one phase.
Yeah.
I think that might be weird as well.
The game has a lot of stuff to keep track of as well. Just like as you're playing the tournament, there are a lot of things that you need to be aware of your abilities and how your cards work. It actually, like, hilariously, it reminds me a lot of playing a CCG, in that the difference is that normally with a CCG, I have spent hours, like, playtesting and tuning a deck before I go in with it. And with this, it's like, here's a whole bunch of cards, read what they do on the fly, and make sure that you play well with them, and I just miss triggers and abilities all of the time.
It's like drafting.
Yeah,
well, it's like drafting is
Drafting
in
when
theory
you
if
don't
you
know the set.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
except I know the set when I'm drafting.
Yeah, that's why. I feel like I would really enjoy drafting if I weren't playing against people who knew the set already, or at least based on my experience with that game.
See, I don't know, because I wish that we were playing that where I kind of like playing it when everyone knows what their cards are doing and is maintaining proper board state. Like, that last tournament felt messy, especially when Charizard came down.
Honestly, like, I think my favorite draft state would be, it's not one that I've ever encountered, but like, if you were handed 120 cards, and then you didn't trade, you didn't actually do anything with them, you were just handed randomly 120 cards, and you have to whittle it down to a 60 card deck.
That's sealed.
That's sealed, yeah. Like, I liked sealed drafting back in the day.
So it's actually very funny. Loading Ready Run just did a Friday Night Magic thing with a new format that they're calling like Beachlander, because you're taking one of those pay $1, get 100 cards of Magic. These secondary market packs.
Yeah.
And then taking those and building. Everyone gets one of those and has to build a 100-card singleton deck out of it. And they get to add as many basic lands as they want.
That would be fun to me. That would be really fun.
Apparently it was really fun and very funny.
I like the concept of singleton magic.
Like the idea of Commander or Singleton.
Like, I like the idea of singleton mostly. Like, Commander's cool, but I would rather play normal Magic with a deck made of just single cards.
So you probably would enjoy Canadian Highlander, which is it is 100-card singleton with a points list. Like most decks, I think
certain cards cost points.
Yeah, certain cards cost points. You have 10 points worth of cards in your deck. But like pointed cards start at 1 and they're all going to be pretty powerful. Like a 1-point card is probably like a Mystical Tutor.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Up to like a 7-point card, which is Black Lotus. But this means if you want to play a deck with Black Lotus in it, you can. It's going to restrict the rest of your deck building options, but in fact, Black Lotus is a pretty big staple of Canadian Highlander for Storm decks. Storm is very popular in Canadian Highlander.
I feel like tribal decks would be extremely good for a singleton environment. Especially like goblins.
I was going to say, there is a tribe that is good in Canadian Highlander, as far as I understand, and it's goblins.
Yeah, I mean, because almost every set has had some kind of a goblin in it.
There are so many goblins.
There are so many goblins, and more importantly, goblins are naturally low to the ground. Like, their mana cost is very low. But like,
joke.
I mean, sure, but like, low to the ground tends to mean low mana cost. One of my favorite decks that is actually played and is somewhat competitive is called Flying Man, which is every single possible 1/1 flyer for 1. So you're just trying to deal 20 damage before they can deal with your mass of 1/1 flyers.
I mean, sadly, land walk isn't as big of a thing as it used to be.
Nope.
Because, like, early Magic, there's plenty of land walk cards. Newer Magic? No, they really don't exist.
Oh,
if you have a Blood Moon now, Mountain Walk is pretty great.
Land walk is kind of fell out of favor because it's like situational evasion. Like, generally everyone would just rather have island walk or flying.
I don't know. I can remember building decks around giving my opponent whatever land type was missing. Whatever land type I needed to make my walk work.
Yeah.
So there is a deck that does that. It's Merfolk. And they use Spreading Seas, which is a 1 blue mana enchantment that causes target land to become an island in addition to its other types. But yes, Millennium Blades. it's a fun game, and I kind of want to play more of it.
Me too.
I do kind of wish it had set rotation mechanics.
I mean, we could play with different sets.
I mean, like...
Although, that said, the store deck it tells you to build is large enough that you will never get through it in a single game.
Oh, no. Like, I was mostly saying, like, at some point in the game, like, you flip over 3 things, and those packs now rotate out next time around.
I don't want to go through that giant store deck more than once during setup, basically. So, no. I'm glad that's not a thing. Get an idea of how many cards go into this set, go into this store deck. There are, I want to say, probably 70-ish core set cards. That might be low. 5 expansion sets, 4 premium sets, and 3 master sets, each of which is 12 cards. So you have well over like a commander-sized deck of cards that you need to shuffle in order to make the store. I really don't want to have to fish 12 cards out of that deck at any point.
Yeah, I feel like my enjoyment of that game is going to start high and go down as all of the good card combinations become known and people start building towards them, as opposed to building what's on the table.
The funny part about that is we could just remove those. I have so many different sets are in that box.
Yeah, which I think is good. I just think that it takes... I don't know. I think that it is possible to eventually know all of those, but also, to Kodra's previous point, if you enjoy it more when you know what you're building towards, that's a legitimate playstyle. It's just not one I enjoy.
Right. I think the size of that deck makes it difficult, because it's hard to know if anything in particular will come up. So even if you know that you're building to be Clash-focused, there's no guarantee that you're going to get all of those nice fighting dude cards that let you make points off of that. You might not even see them, even if you have that set included. That said, if you have a bunch of them already, maybe it's worth trying to for some more. But I don't know. I don't know how to play this game optimally yet. I suspect it's going to take a long time to figure it out.
I enjoy that. Like, I have the most fun with games where nobody knows how to play it optimally.
Well, at this point, we have recorded a fairly long show, so it's probably time for us to wrap things up. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night!
Good night!
Good night.
Good night.
See you.